Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. So the news we're looking at today is Forte having raised an enormous funding round, so a Series B round, $725 million. That's the biggest funding round we've seen into blockchain games. Previous biggest one was $650 million into SoRare, which is a games company. Forte is different. Forte is a platform company, so a platform company just means that they are providing a technology that lots of other developers can use. So we can think of something like Unity or Unreal, or as being sort of game engines that are platforms that allow people to make games. Forte is sort of what it's doing is it's allowing game developers to connect their games to the blockchain. So that's sort of what it's doing. We can see that's very valuable because most game developers don't have experience with the blockchain, can't build their own tech, don't probably have any sort of even coding experience on the blockchain. That's very hard to find, that talent. So this sort of provides a solution to that sort of issue where game developers don't understand blockchain but want to make NFTs. And also, important stuff for something like Forte is that it handles all the sort of regulatory issues, tax issues, how to create sort of wallets, all this sort of messy stuff, but it's important. So this is why they've got a big funding round. We'll go dig into a bit more details. It'll be a fairly longer video, I think, than normal because I want to go into a bit of detail on it. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. So anyway. So this is the Series B round. This is like the so you normally have a seed round, Series A. Forte raised $185 million in its Series A. So and that was not that many months ago. So they've raised like $900 million. So that's an awful lot of money. Quite whether you need that amount of money will be interesting to see. That we can think of some reasons why they might need this sort of money. And whenever you have a funding round, you sort of have lead investors. So in this case, the lead investors are C Capital and Cora Management. So these are not companies we've seen investing in blockchain games at all up to this stage. So C Capital is the sort of capital venture arm of a company called C, which is based out of Southeast Asia, based out of Singapore. And they are sort of best known. Well, they're best known for the Free Fire mobile game. So that's one of the most successful battle royale sort of shooter games. Actually bigger than PUBG Mobile. So they're raising a ton of money. They're a very successful company, and now they've got this capital arm. I think they've had it for a while actually, but now they're investing in this. Cora Management, don't know very much about them. This sort of, I guess we'll have a look at their website in a minute actually. So these are the funding round. These are the leads. So these are putting the most money in. Interesting that these are companies who have not been in blockchain sort of before. So why are they getting involved in blockchain games now? Clearly they see the opportunity. But they've not done any investing before. So I think that may be why the round is so big. That these are companies who really see the opportunity. Haven't invested in any other companies. So they kind of want to make a big splash. Other companies who are involved, are better known to us. So Animoca Brands, obviously investing in pretty much everything at the moment. This is interesting. Big Bets. They are huge games. They're really well known. Gambling, social casino, mobile company out of Europe. So they're very successful in the sort of mobile casino game space. Haven't done any blockchain games. Overwolf. They're sort of themselves a sort of start-up, allowing people to sort of do mods on games. So they're doing their own funding. That's interesting. Play Studios, mobile game studio, I think. Warner Music actually had done a lot of investments into games, blockchain games. Invested also early into Dapper Labs and their Flow blockchain. Razer with their Z Ventures, so Razer the hardware companies. Blockchain partners, so Cosmos, Polygon, and Solana. So these are the sort of venture arms of these blockchains. Obviously, one of the things you would want to do on a platform is support multiple blockchains. So at the moment, Forte's been pretty quiet about what it's sort of working on in terms of blockchain-wise. It's sort of using Hyperledger, I think, which is sort of an enterprise blockchain. So it's sort of, because it's custodial, people don't really care sort of what blockchain it's running on, but clearly over time it has to support these wider sort of protocols. And also we have sort of existing investors. So Griffin Gaming were the main lead funder of the Series A. Jason Horowitz, obviously everyone knows, investing massively quickly into crypto and gaming. And Tiger Global, also a well-known VC. So you've got quite a mixture here. But interesting that what I would see is these fairly inexperienced blockchain investment these very inexperienced companies investing in blockchain games have put in a lot of money. $725 million. We don't know exactly how this is chopped up, but we'd imagine these two are putting in between them 500 500 million, 600 million. Yeah, the rest of some of these other ones are putting in sort of money to keep to stop dilution of their percentage shares. Anyway, so as I said before, it allows game developers to build stuff on blockchain easily, seamlessly embedded wallets, non-fungible token minting and selling, payment rails, okay, all that sort of stuff. It's interesting here that it says building a compliant, interoperable blockchain gaming platform. So, compliant means legally compliant. Interoperable means it doesn't really matter what blockchain you're running on. So they are looking to do something than just sort of create a sort of a blockchain where people just run it on your own sort of proof of authority blockchain. I think some of this money will go clearly towards engineering and probably building out stuff on Cosmos, which is potentially you might need to sort of stake a lot of value into that. We'll see what happens. So this is the other thing, that probably people forget about, particularly from the blockchain space. Forte provides inbuilt compliance, security products, frameworks for regulated activity, money transmission, anti-money laundering, tax compliance, IP protection, all this sort of really tedious stuff. But when you talk to when you talk to games companies, this is sort of stuff they're worried about. They're worried about getting sued. They're worried about, especially if they're in the States where Forte is from, they're worried about being sent to prison for money laundering. Do they know what their users are doing? If a user is sending $1 million of assets through their blockchain game, do they know that those are not terrorists, or do they know they're not the mafia? Do they know they're not blacklisted individuals? All that sort of stuff seems a bit of a joke to us in the blockchain space, because we just go, well, it's a blockchain, it doesn't matter. But for sort of more sort of serious companies, and certainly for people like EA or Activision or Zynga, who've announced they've got a blockchain guy now, a blockchain VP. This sort of stuff is very important. As public companies, you have to, you have a legal obligation to protect your shareholders from this sort of stuff. So this is, I think, is a reason why this amount of money's gone in. So at the moment, this is sort of an interesting stat that I always sort of bang on about a little bit. So the Forte platform isn't open to anyone. Anyone can't rock up. Forte is actually already giving grants for developers to use their platform. So I've heard of Forte giving money out to developers to use their platform. So obviously, when you have a lot of money, you can start to encourage developers. So it's sort of the developer doesn't lose any money because effectively Forte are paying them to be on the platform. Obviously, that gets expensive fairly quickly. 40 developer partners so far, and this is the one I'm not quite sure about. 15 million players. So as far as I can see at the moment, there is Congregate and Gallium Labs, which is Will Wright's new studio. They're the two that I've seen that are live. I've done some videos around that if you want to check them out. So there are lots of other studios that have publicly signed up to Forte. It's not very clear what games they're doing that are going to interact with this blockchain. I think some of this stuff is, this 15 million players these are games that are live but potentially not connected to the blockchain yet. That's the only thing I can think of. I just can't see where all these games are. 15. Axie Infinity has 2 million gamers on it, and it's doing billions of dollars of value. So as soon as you had blockchain and 15 million players, I would start to see that in the ecosystem, and I don't see it at the moment. So that's a slight confusing point for me. But we will sort of see how that plays out. I could be wrong on that. I just don't know what those games are at the moment. So here we have again. So this is from excuse me, from VentureBeat. Now, what's interesting about this? Why I want to look at this. If I find it. So something sort of weird that Dean Takeshi has written about before with Forte. And it's not something that I've really seen them talk about before, but clearly he's got it from somewhere. And he says this here in past interviews. So I think this is from an old interview that on the last funding round that Dean did with them. Come on, where we go. Okay, so this is rather than charge fees for blockchain transactions, Forte makes money in an interesting way. And if this is the case, this is very interesting. It can buy cryptocurrency and other tokens in bulk. Not quite sure what he means about that. And it can provide liquidity in a game instantly to players who want to sell something. So this is interesting in the sense that if I'm on a marketplace and I want to sell an item, I basically have to wait until someone wants to buy it. So I might have something that's on the marketplace for a week until someone buys it. or I might have to like really drop the price in order to sort of get it sold quickly. Yeah, this is the problem. This is the liquidity problem with non-fungible tokens. With fungible tokens, you can just stick them in a in an AMM decentralized exchange, and someone will just you just swap into the liquidity pool, and that's fine. There's no question about that. If you want to take that price with NFTs, because they're unique, you have to sort of have a buyer on the other end. Now there are sort of ways, and people are working out ways of sort of doing this in a more liquid way. But this is, so this is quite interesting. This is quite significant that basically Forte is going to be, if I put my blockchain sword on sale for $5, and no one immediately takes that, then Forte might go, right, well, I'll buy it off you, or I might offer me $4 or something to do that. In a sense that Forte is then buying that. So rather than waiting for a buyer to emerge for that for that item, Forte will buy that item. Forte can then sell the item onto something else. During this process, Forte can arbitrage the item, making money by buying in bulk for low prices and selling for higher prices. This is an automated process. So this is sort of fascinating. That it sort of suggests that Forte is going to be providing liquidity in these marketplaces, buying these items, or maybe offering low prices via bots to buy these items, and then sort of stacking them up, and then sort of reselling them on at higher prices because they have all this sort of capital and they don't need to sell things immediately like players would. So for that reason, you might need an awful lot of capital if you're basically using your capital to provide liquidity. But this is not really how blockchain markets work, because basically, if a blockchain market is working properly, then people will be making money on it, and the users will provide liquidity, because people will see, well, someone's just trying to sell this item off really quickly. I know what this item's worth more than that, so I'll buy it and then I'll flip it myself. So flipping is part of NFT, culture. That's what people do. They try and buy low. They give low bids. They try and buy something at a cheaper price and then sell it at a higher price. They feel like they know what the market trend is. And when it comes to sort of tokens as well, obviously, as I mentioned, like in something like Uniswap, there's just a liquidity pool. The Uniswap doesn't provide liquidity pools. Uniswap just provides provides a smart contract, and people put in liquidity in order to get the fund, to get the fees on it. So this is sort of interesting. It seems to me that partly because I think the Forte blockchain is not particularly open, and certainly not at the moment it isn't. So in a sense, Forte is having to provide liquidity, which is, for me, is that a good thing? I mean, it might sort of kickstart their marketplace, and that might then mean they don't have to do this. But I don't think platform companies should be like a buyer of last resort of NFTs. Because effectively, if the entire marketplace collapses, then you're just buying all this stuff that you can't resell. And so it's kind of fine if you can buy stuff cheap and then resell it because the market's going up, then that's sort of fine. But I don't think that happens very often. I think what generally you're going to happen here, and I'm sure they thought about this because it's so obvious, that if these games economies are dying, and then Forte ends up buying all this stuff that it can never resell, then suddenly you start having massive losses. I mean, this is sort of when the market turns. You sort of have these problems. So this is something I really want to understand more about. This exactly what they're planning to do with this, because this to me seems like not much of an upside. I mean, it's upside in the sense that you have a liquid market, but the downside seems enormous. That this sort of thing could, one game could sort of kill the company. Anyway, we will see. And clearly it seems to be that this is how they're trying to make this is how they're doing it without charging developers fees. I mean, I think developers will be happy to pay fees, to be honest, if stuff's going well. So this is interesting, but I'm not quite sure. To me, it seems a little bit a little bit sort of odd. But we'll see. They're obviously, the investors are not stupid people, and they've raised $900 million, and I've raised no $1 million in my life ever. So what do I know about it? But it just that raises the question for me anyway. So let's have a look here. This is Cora. This is one of the lead investors. So why are they investing? It's good to sort of see, and in a sense they're talking about play to earn. So I think there's nothing. I don't think there's anything sort of very deep in what they're saying here. I think this comes from a company who haven't invested in blockchain before, and they're talking a lot of thing about blockchain for gamers can gain true property rights over their assets and participate in liquid markets. I mean, it's kind of worth seeing this. This is sort of where they see Forte sort of sitting between end users and developers on one side and blockchain solutions on the other. And this is definitely valuable if you can get this at scale. This is certainly valuable. Here are some of the companies who are working with Forte. This was announced years ago. So some of these are big. Netmarble, massive, big Korean company. Nothing's been announced on that. Some of these are a bit smaller. Sort of companies. Disruptor Beam in the US, Enway in the US, Congregate got something live already. Other Ocean. So these are sort of known developers, but not massive developers. So there must be a whole bunch more. And we'll sort of see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, there was this is just the end was a bit sort of light. I mean, obviously we sort of believe in blockchain games because we've been in this scene for a couple of years. So maybe this is just Quora just sort of catching up to where everyone else in the scene is. But and it is actually interesting that they're showing this on. So this actually here, this image here is Will Wright's game called a Proxy. I think it's called. And it's a very weird. Not very weird. It's a very sort of interesting user-generated content world where you sort of build AI memories and stuff using in-game assets. So this is what they're showing here. Showing it on mobile, I think this is very interesting. If Forte's not really mentioned platforms, and at the moment it's only live on web. If they can get the mobile stuff up and running, then definitely that'll be valuable, extremely valuable in fact. So the valuation would sort of work on that if they've got a very strong mobile playbook here. And a lot of these companies are actually mobile focused. So Netmarble's pretty much all mobile. Disruptor Beam's mobile. Magmic is mobile. Decker's 100% mobile, pretty much. So maybe there is a sort of a big thing to come out about how they're going to build a mobile, sort of a mobile first platform that circumvents app stores. So they're going to sort of build like a blockchain app store. I can see that sort of working then, and then maybe some of that liquidity stuff starts to come into play a bit more on mobile. Because just mobile is just much more accessible, so you sort of want a different sort of user experience. But we will see. I mean, the headline stuff is this is just a vast amount. This is just a lot of money. $900 million for a company that at the moment has no revenue at all, and as far as I can see, has 2 live games. Yeah, that is just staggering. And I'm sure it won't be the end of it. I'm sure we'll see. I'm sure we'll see. Similar sort of rounds going in now, because that's just where we are when it comes to investing in these companies. So it's fascinating to see. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Bit of a long one. Sorry for my croaky throat. Too much talking over the last week. But hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. And see you again soon.